Hey everybody, it's Josh. I wanted to talk to you all today about social anxiety. I know that a lot of you I've talked to suffer from this, and it all leads back to low self-worth. We see ourselves as less than, as inferior to everyone. We're out in a crowd and what we see is basically just the monster of the crowd. We don't see individuals. We see this beast. And this beast wants to devour us. It's judging us. We know if we say something, anything, do anything, we stand there in the corner still, or else the beast will laugh at us and mock us. And it will be so embarrassing, we won't even be able to move on from that. It's something that I know I have always struggled with. And it leads to the deepest depression. There are obviously other paths to deep depression, don't get me wrong. But even the outgoing people, they can get sucked into this void of feeling inferior to others because they often self-medicate or find some way to escape their lives. And that leads us down the same road. Now, since COVID, it's become even more of an epidemic. When I was a child, it was very rare for kids to be put on medication and to be given these labels of socially anxious, or, it was just, you're a shy kid. And so you better find a way to deal with it. But more and more, I think the fact that we do label these things now, it just amplifies it. So you have this problem. Obviously, if you have some sort of chemical imbalance or some sort of neurological disorder, you start thinking about things illogically. So I would go into a crowd and I would have these irrational thoughts about what people were thinking about me. And it was awful. So what happened was I started using humor when I was really as early as I can remember, in elementary school. I would mask my insecurities with this humor. And when I got to high school and I got old enough to go out to parties and stuff, well, then it was a lot easier because I just got wasted drunk or high or whatever. And that would take away all the anxiety, that social lubricant of alcohol. I think it's one big reason why a lot of people are alcoholics. Getting drunk feels good, I guess, while you're doing it. But then you have to deal with the consequences of it. And if it's used as a social lubricant, then obviously you're sitting there getting wasted. You're not worried about anything except for right now. I've got to get through this beast of a party or of a social gathering. And it'll be so much easier if I just am sloppy drunk and I just don't care. I mean, I even made an identity out of it. I became like the John Belushi of my high school. You know, the Chris Farley. I was oftentimes the life of the party, and I was fun to be around. And now people, especially since COVID, as I said, people are just trapped in their anxiety. Or you have some sort of condition, my condition, that made everything so much worse, that just basically, I thought, ruined my life. I couldn't see a future where anything was better unless my pain was gone. So it's disability. So when my back was hurt and I had, you know, the nerve damage from my first surgery and then the 3 other surgeries after trying to fix it or find at least some help for it, I now had an excuse not to go and do anything, or as little as possible. I didn't have to be that, you know, court jester going out there making everybody laugh. I didn't have that pressure on me anymore, and it was freeing in a way, and I was enslaved to it. So I just kind of went on, and it kind of spiraled downward. The spiral led to things getting obviously even worse. I had this thing where, whether it was from the medication I was on or just the pain in general, I would just start sweating when I started feeling pain. And I'd be sweating horrifically even in the wintertime, because it didn't matter the temperature, it only mattered my pain. And then I started thinking about how embarrassing it was that I was sweating this bad, and my social anxiety got even worse. So down and down I went, lower and lower. And the kids that I see today, I just took my daughter this morning. I'm on my way to, Annapolis tonight and then Butler, Pennsylvania tomorrow. I was at a roller rink with a bunch of second graders. And these second graders, they are not as affected as most, because they were getting into school kind of after COVID was pretty much winding down. But my daughter, my oldest daughter, she was right in the thick of it. So she missed basically all of her kindergarten year, and then her first grade year was basically ruined. And they were doing just about everything online. Making them wear masks in school, making them do all these things that just stifled their socializing. And I can tell you that basically anyone who's fourth, I would say fourth through their early 20s right now, they've been affected by this tremendously. It's been awful for them. And to see it, because I see that same shyness that I had in my daughter, and it's been amplified. And people act like it is some huge trauma. And I can tell you right now, the therapists she sees are going to want to put her on medicine. Because one has already kind of mentioned it. You know, in the future. And then there's nothing they do for them that seems to be of any help. They just tell them, yeah, you've got a problem. You are socially anxious. And they let them talk about their problem a little bit, and they make it into this big, insurmountable thing. Now, it's not good to hide from your problems, obviously. That is definitely not healthy. But it is good to deal with your problems. In our generation, people alive today, we take a pill, we mask the symptoms, we do not get to the root of the problem. But regardless, the main problem is that people have that low self-worth. That people are without meaning, without purpose, and without love for themselves or for others. Now, they can connect a lot of times, like my daughter does, with animals. So she loves horses, she loves dogs and cats. And that is the only living thing she relates to. People are monsters to her. Why? Because, yeah, she's dealt with some ignorant people. And I'm talking about her because her example is basically a summary of society as a whole. So she relates to these animals, and she just escapes, and she doesn't want to deal with these people because these people are cruel. You know, she's had, obviously, the thing with the COVID, but she's had people just manipulating and controlling her. And I know, since I've talked to a lot of you about this, or at least some of you, I know that is a big thing for many of you. I've talked about the pros and cons of going to a church versus, worshiping in nature or in the privacy of your own home. And obviously, Christ calls us to be charitable, to serve others. That's one of the main things he calls us to do. And we just can't bring ourselves to do it because we see that monster. The crowd is an evil, hungry monster waiting to just chew us up and spit us out. I really do hope that you guys understand that there is only really one way to overcome this. And that is by getting to the root of the problem. And there's only one way to fix the root of that problem, that low self-worth, that lack of self-love, that lack of compassion, that fear that just consumes you. And that is by having a relationship with Christ. And obviously that's just hilariously stupid compared to most people, even a lot of modern Christians. It's just ridiculous. You're gonna, of course, you have the atheists who have just, well, they're the ones who really put this notion out here that, oh, it's this fake sky daddy now. You're gonna have this fake sky daddy who's gonna solve all your problems. Ha ha ha! Good luck with that. They are ignorant at best. They're evil at worst. Because they don't understand that there's a reason that 93% of mankind still believes in some kind of God. There's a reason that it's such a small minority of people who reject this notion outright, saying they don't have enough evidence. Well, I'm not here to get into the evidence this time. I can debate that another time if anybody wants to. What I'm here to tell you is that my story and the testimonies of so many I've seen are overwhelmingly positive that relationship with Christ is the fix to the lack of purpose, the lack of self-love, the lack of compassion, and the fear of others. It's not even close. I don't know of any other thing. The only thing that maybe comes close is basically becoming a health nut and just devoting your life to nonstop exercise and working out. And then all of a sudden you're in peak fitness and, well, you don't have any confidence problems then because you are just in peak physical health. But that is a temporary fix for the root of that problem. Now you can, some people, very, very, very few can sustain that throughout their lives. What happens if you get an injury? It happened to me. I was in amazing shape. I was a bodybuilder, a power lifter. I was, an endurance runner. I just was in incredible shape. I lost 130 pounds in a couple months. And girls started finally paying attention to me. I finally started finding that self-confidence. And yeah, I was happy. I kind of turned into the kind of person that I hated. That person who is selfish and is judgmental. And I didn't really get deep into that persona, but it started creeping up on me really quick. So again, it's a temporary fix. But there's back to the only thing that solves that problem. The only thing, I don't care if you laugh at it or not, you find that deep, intimate relationship with Christ. It can't be with another brother and sister another Christian, yeah, that comes afterwards. That's part of the world that opens up to you afterwards. It comes only from connecting to your God. The one true God, Jesus. And the only reason, well, you say, well, what about the other religions? They've found enlightenment, they've found peace. They've found maybe a temporary fix. You know, the Buddhisms and the Hinduisms of the world, they are a temporary fix. They have a patch on the problem, a band-aid on the gaping wound, an escape. Because again, you hit that existential crisis and you are ruined. Now, luckily, you know, there's a good bit of people who will, I guess, never hit that deeper existential crisis. I understand that. But a lot will. You going to take that chance? Or are you just going to wait until things are as hopeless as they can be and then start worrying about it? Or are you going to have a solution beforehand so it never gets to that point? Now, I get it. As I've said before, there is a level of brokenness that you have to get to before you truly understand Jesus Christ. He is a suffering God for a reason. But we all have plenty of suffering to go around, do we not? We get to this point where nothing works. Nothing at all. Now, I want to go much deeper into this. I don't have much time because I'm just stopped over just to walk for a few minutes while I'm on my way to Annapolis. We are lost without Him. It doesn't matter what we try to do. And even without that deep relationship, even with just a general understanding of Christ, we are lost. He calls us to love Him the way He loves us. And unless we have that deep connection, it is going to be just it's going to be a bad scene. Because think about it. You are, let's say you've got the social anxiety too. And it's going to lead to depression because you get lonely. And it could lead to even worse. It could lead to ending your own life. Happens too often because loneliness is what does it. And God created us to connect with others, to love others, even our enemies. And if we can't even speak to someone in the line at a grocery store, let's say, how are we supposed to have some deep connection or deep love for others? All we see when we are in that social anxiety is, and I've heard it from some of you, I've heard it from my daughter, I heard it from myself out of my own mouth before I was saved. Well, these are terrible people out there. Why would I want to get to know them? And plus, they're going to judge me anyway. They're just awful people. Can't go to church because they're awful people. They're all judgmental. Can't go to any kind of crowd. They're judgmental. They're awful people. I know that trap. That is darkness. That is the devil imprisoning you. Do not let him. It is not worth that kind of suffering. Matthew 6:34 says, "Therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." Joshua 1:19, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." 2 Timothy 1:7, "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." Here's a good one. Philippians 4:16, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God." Hebrews 13:6, "So we can confidently say, the Lord is my helper, I will not fear. What can man do to me?" You can mock this and you can laugh at the idea that Christ is the only fix for this problem. But what do you have to lose by trying? What do you have to lose by surrendering yourself completely to Him? And surrendering does not just mean proclaiming He is your God. Surrendering means that, as Paul says, the Apostle Paul, "The things I love to do, I do not do. The things I hate to do, I do." I hated going around other people. I hated having to deal with the embarrassment of the pain and having to explain my disability because nobody can see it. So nobody believes me. Well, not many believe me. Then I'll start sweating and people are like, "Wow, look at his sweating." Or at least that's what, in my mind, I would think. It is an awful feeling being trapped like that. I beg you to throw yourself at His feet, because He is the only one who can give you that peace. The supernatural peace that lasts. He's the one who wraps you in the armor of God. And if you truly learn to walk in faith, if you set aside your doubts to follow Him, if you are genuine in your seeking, you will find Him. You will find that peace. You will find that love. And almost best of all, you will find that purpose. Because without purpose in life, well, there's no meaning to a life without purpose. And there is no ultimate purpose except for in Christ. All right, everybody, I'm going to get back on the road. I love you all so much. I will try to record a couple more of these. If you guys have any comments about this, please let me know. I'm reading your comments. I can't respond right now a lot, but just let me know and I will get to as many as I can, and I will try to do some videos to respond. If you're struggling with anxiety, let me know. If you're struggling with fear, depression, loneliness, reach out to me. You're not alone. In fact, there are probably close to a majority of people in the world are just like you now. all turned away from God, or at least not having that close relationship like he calls us to have. Okay, everybody, I love you all. God bless.